And I really had to step boldly into the man that God is creating me or moving me to become. So this was my wrestling match. This was where I was getting to wrestle one-on-one with God, and one-on-one with my own fears. Welcome back. Thank you for joining me for another insight. My name is Vince, aka Vinny Mac. This insight is going to be slightly different to the other insights, but it's really challenging in terms of your thinking and your beliefs, and what you believe is possible in your life, and what you believe is your greatest weakness, because God sees that as your greatest strength. And He's working all things together to make that weakness one of your most powerful attributes, a force for good, a force for really taking the kingdom by storm. So let's dive into that particular thought, that particular aspect, because by watching this insight, you will transform what you believe is your greatest weakness into one of your greatest attributes. Okay, on this channel, I provide you value through insights from a grounded perspective, helping you shift your thinking, transforming your life, helping you tap into a higher purpose so that you can ultimately live your life God's way. I love the story in Genesis where Jacob is finding himself wrestling with a man. And as they're wrestling all night long, the man sees he's not going to prevail against Jacob. So he touches his hip socket and leaves him with a limp. But despite all of that pain that he's going through, Jacob still is relentless. And he says to that man, ultimately, I will not let you go until you bless me. And ultimately, he receives his blessing. And he even names that place Peniel, because he says, I have wrestled with God. I've seen God face to face and my life was spared. Now, what moves me about that story is that, even in his weakness, in his state of weakened, or in his weakened state, he was still able to stay focused, to wrestle, and to get the breakthrough in his journey. And that is one of the inspirations, one of the encouragements that I've been taking in my own journey, where I'm rebuilding my life and getting myself back into the level, or getting myself to a higher level in terms of where I see my life going. Because I'm looking at tapping into the life and the purpose of everything that God has laid inside of me. But the only way that I can do that, the only way that I can change the world out there, is by making changes inside of myself. So I've been learning to tap into that changes and transforming my own life. And great evidence of that came through this week, where I attended a business networking session. Not just speaking to everyday people, but really to business people. And the reason why that was so big for me is because this touched or spoke into one of my greatest fears and my greatest weaknesses. Growing up, one of the difficulties in growing up was being bullied at school by the teachers themselves. And this left me with a great sense of, fear of speaking to people in authority. Anyone that I perceived to be in authority or above me, I just could never speak to them. I could never open up my mouth. That also started going hand in hand with the fact that I became socially awkward, that I couldn't be in company of, large groups. And it's always surprising to people when I tell them that I'm socially awkward, because they're always saying, but you're such an extrovert, you're always so full of life and so expressive in terms of the way you speak and the way you connect with others. I can only do that amongst people that I know. As soon as you put me into a room with people of strangers, where I don't know anyone, then I'm not able to open up and speak and be myself the way that I am able to do when I'm in a room full of people that I actually do know. Even if there's just one or two people, as long as they are in that company, in that conversation, I can open up and I can be myself. So going to this business networking event was very massive for me. It was a challenge for me. I had to break down the stereotypes and the old beliefs of who I thought I am, and I really had to step boldly into the man that God is creating me or moving me to become. So this was my wrestling match. This was where I was getting to wrestle one-on-one with God and one-on-one with my own fears. And this is where you might be right now in your journey, because right now there might be something that is holding you back from being the man or being the woman that God has set out for you to be. And I want to encourage you through this. I got up and I started speaking. In under 30 seconds, I was able to impact that room on such a level that afterwards, when we did our socializing, after the networking event, we did our socializing, people came up to me and they said, wow, I really loved the way you presented yourself. I really loved your introduction. It was so refreshingly different. And that just left me with the feeling of, wow, God really has been doing transformational work inside of me. The fact that this socially awkward introvert that always overthinks the conversation could step up, step into a room and just convey his message with clarity, with such authenticity, and just with such power that people were impacted. And that is only God's working inside of my life. That is just evidence of the great work that God started in my life. And I believe He's taking it to another level. So I'm very excited about where I am and where He's taking me in terms of my journey. And I believe He wants to do exactly the same for you right now. I want you to challenge you to look at what is your greatest weakness. What do you perceive to be your greatest weakness? Jacob was a deceiver. He thought of himself as a deceiver. That is what his name refers to, as being a deceiver. God took his greatest weakness, the fact that he saw himself as a deceiver, and He made him a father of nations. Imagine what God wants to do with you, because I look at myself and I look at what God took me through, or allowed me to go through, and how He allowed those situations to shape me and mold me into becoming the man that I am and the man that I'm headed to becoming. So I'm very excited about my journey, and I'm very excited about the good works God is starting in you. But you need to open up and embrace everything that God is trying to do through you right now. Alright, so the challenge behind this insight and the thinking behind this insight is really to challenge you to step into that role, to step into that fear, your greatest fear, and discover the hand of the Lord working within you, transforming your life. See, Jesus says it so beautifully in the book of John, "Abide in me, and I will abide in you, so that you can bear my fruit." But how do you abide in the Lord? How do you bear that fruit of the Lord? You have to do what God is saying to you all over the Bible. Throughout the Bible, He's telling you, come into my rest. Wait upon the Lord. See, we live in a world of instant gratification. We want everything right now. We can't wait for tomorrow. We can't wait for next week or for next year. It has to happen now, or else we're not interested. But God is saying, that is not the way I work. I'm busy transforming you. I'm busy shifting you, shaping you and molding you to becoming the man or the woman that you are capable of being. But I need you to rest in me. And I need you to trust in what I am doing in your life. You see, for the past 3 years, God has been transforming my life. It didn't happen overnight. There were times when I was getting frustrated, where I wanted things to happen immediately. But I knew and I understood that I needed to wait on the Lord. And every time I got anxious, every time I felt excitement building up inside of me, I had to calm myself down and say to myself, I am waiting upon the Lord. I am trusting upon the Lord. And it was very, very difficult going through that journey. And it continues being difficult as I'm carrying on through this journey. But I'm seeing the works of God's hand in my life, transforming my life, shaping my life, molding my life. And it makes me excited for what lies ahead. So I want to challenge you as well. Whatever your greatest fear is right now, allow God to work in you so that He can take your greatest weakness and make it your greatest attribute. Okay, I hope you took value from this particular insight and that you're going to apply that concept of, waiting on the Lord and just letting Him transform your greatest weakness into your greatest or most powerful attribute. If you took value from this insight, please share it with the next person. Let's show YouTube, let's show the world that there is truly transformative power in God. But it requires us to step into the Lord with boldness, with courage, and with understanding and the belief that He can transform any situation in our lives. If you haven't yet, please subscribe to the channel. I provide you value through insights like this from a grounded perspective. So by all means, please do give the channel a like. Drop me your comments. I always love hearing from you. I love reading your feedback. And if you don't know what to say, just drop an emoji. I'll respond to you, man. I love seeing your comments. I love seeing the feedback. So thank you very, very much for this. Like I said, I hope you took value out of this. I look forward to seeing you on the next insight. So for now, this is Vinnie Mac saying, change your thinking, change your world.